Hello, hello, wherever you are in the world. My name is Agnes van Rhijn. I am a business success strategist, and I am also the founder of the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show. Today, it's my privilege to be interviewing Paula Quinsee. Paula is a relationship wellness coach, and as such, she provides people with knowledge, tools, and skills to create quality relationships in both their personal and professional lives. She works with individuals and organizations, teaching emotional intelligence skills, focusing on effective communication, conflict management, and diversity. Welcome to the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show, Paula. How are you?
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to your show.
Oh, you're very welcome. We have some friends in common, and I did interview a friend of you before a few weeks ago, Wendy Ward, which was absolutely amazing. And I have no doubt that this interview will be as amazing. So tell us more about your story. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think best is to start in the beginning, which was probably about 2006. I was in a relationship at the time that had hit rock bottom. And we were going for counseling or couples therapy, and our counselor at the time referred us to what is called Imago relationship therapy. And we went away on this couples weekend, and I was absolutely blown away by this work and the profound impact that it had on me in terms of understanding my past, my upbringing, how that has influenced me in terms of love and relationships, my emotional skills and capabilities, and what love and relationships look like. So after the workshop, I decided there and then that I wanted to know how to teach this stuff to people. I applied to learn or be trained as an Imago relationship therapy educator. And as things happen, it took 3 years for that to actually work. And the reason being is because my relationship at the time that was on the rocks didn't work for various reasons. Mm-hmm. The main reason being that I was the one that was playing the victim. I was blaming my partner for everything that had gone wrong in our relationship. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he had had an affair and he had did all of these things and it was his fault. Until eventually I had to kind of, you know, look in the mirror and go, well, how did you contribute to all of this? Mm-hmm. You know, because situations don't just happen. We co-create them. And at that stage, our relationship had ended and I had moved out into my own place. So financially, I wasn't able to do the training the first time that it came around. It was an annual program. The second year when the program came around, I had started a new job. So I wasn't able to take leave to go and do the training in my personal capacity because it obviously wasn't related to my job. Mm-hmm. And then the third year when the training came around, I was obviously meant to be all about divine timing and everything just fell into place. And I started with the training 3 years later, and that was 2009. And that was my journey into relationship and couples coaching. And I've been doing that ever since.
Fascinating. I really love what you were referring to at the beginning when you were saying that whatever happens in whatever form of relationship, we have a responsibility in that. When I left a toxic relationship 18 months ago, it would have been extremely easy for me to, you know, complain about what he'd done to me, etc. And for once, I didn't. Exactly what you were saying. I didn't behave as a victim. I really started looking into what my role had been in that and how I had, what had led to me accepting for that situation to happen, in fact. And that has been life-changing for me. The moment I took charge, it's amazing how much things have started shifting. So I completely relate. Yeah, it's really important. So what were you doing before, Paula? Just so that the listeners also have a feel for what type of transformations can happen.
So I was in the corporate world. I have a BBA marketing degree, and my job within corporates was marketing and advertising. Mm-hmm. And I had worked in South Africa in some of the big corporates, 2 major banks being Standard Bank and Nedbank. and then not so recently as well is KFC, or Kentucky Fried Chicken, as some might know it. But all of those positions were in a marketing and advertising role in the corporate environment, which I absolutely loved at the time. And, I ended up studying that, and that was going to be my career path until this came along and had a profound effect on me, and realized that kind of this is what I was passionate about on a deeper level, and that I wanted to touch people's lives and leave a lasting mark. Even if it was a small little seed that I had planted that germinated later on down the line, but I just wanted to leave something, of something that was real and tangible, that made a real difference in people's lives. So I started coaching part-time and doing my corporate job during the day. So I was coaching in the evening and on the weekends. And kind of with the view that, one day I would take this up as my second career when I was tired of the corporate world. But of course, the universe has its own plan for us. And when we put things out there, it kind of happens in its own mysterious way. So about a year and a half ago, an opportunity came up for me to leave the corporate world and to follow my passion full time. So it's been May last year, it was a year. So May this year, it will be 2 years, where I've now been on my own coaching. And my corporate background has given me great insights into working with corporates in terms of people dynamics and team dynamics on an emotional level, around communication, around emotional intelligence, dealing with conflict, how to have honest conversations, or what I like to call courageous conversations.
Yeah, that's how I call them also.
And being aware of your impact on people and others around you, and also vice versa, how you are reacting to others.
Absolutely. Paula, I would like to rewind a little bit because what is interesting also for the listeners, you and I have had a similar journey in terms of transitioning. You studied while you were still having your corporate work, and then you did part-time, still having your corporate world, and then only you jumped into the swimming pool. What have been your challenges in that process? Because that's something interesting there's many listeners there who are afraid to go that route.
Yeah. I think a couple of challenges is, for me at the time, it was turning my business model from a part-time business, or what some would have called a hobby, to a full-time, full-day business model. So that was quite a challenge to get my head around that. Secondly would be, I guess, financially, in terms of having, a financial backup plan or something in place, whether it's savings or whether it's part-time work or contract work that you could do in the interim while you're setting up your company or your business or your practice. And then thirdly, a support group in terms of a network, in terms of mentors and coaches that can help you and guide you through the process and the challenges, both from a business perspective in terms of how to run a business, irrespective of how small or big your business may be. And then also just from guiding you in terms of how to make the right decisions or the tough decisions, especially if you've never had to do that before.
Okay, thank you for that. And so what was your driver in that process? How did you keep, despite the difficulties, your radar and going into that direction where you wanted to head? What was the driver for you?
I think for me, being very blessed with, I am a competitive athlete in terms of long distance running, and I've been competing for a number of years, and I've been able to draw on that inner strength and inner resilience and experience about competing under pressure, so to speak. So when the pressure of, having your own business and those tough days when you want to give in, to kind of, go back to the basics and focus and remain calm and know that you've done the groundwork or the training and applying that, and that you will get the results.
So what do you do to keep that focus and to make sure that you don't go elsewhere, that you don't get sidetracked.
I think it's about being very clear on your vision as what you want to achieve and where you want to end up, and then breaking it down into smaller, more achievable goals. Also looking at the resources that you have as well as those resources that you don't have, and then where can you access those resources? Is it turning to someone that has that knowledge? Is it a mentor? Is it reaching out to someone in the industry that's been there before that can guide you? And I found that when you do reach out to people, especially people that you think are much more experienced and higher profile than you, that they kind of wouldn't even give you, you know, the time of day. But when you do reach out to them and say, you know, would you mind having a cup of coffee? I'm really struggling with this challenge and I'd like to pick your brain about it. They are very open and very willing to help and mentor. So I think it's identifying some key players or people, whether it's in your industry or people that have the business knowledge and experience that you're missing, and then reaching out to them and building that network. Also joining networking groups in your area. You know, the global one that a lot of people tend to start with is BNI, or Business Network International. And it's joining those groups around you, because it does give you a foundation of how to sort of perfect your elevator pitch and to sell yourself within 30 seconds, and how to network. And you know, and I think also going in with an attitude about not what I can get from you, but what I can do for you and how I can help you.
Which is true networking.
Yeah, because it's in the giving that you receive.
It's interesting that you mention networking, because one thing you don't know about me, or at least I don't think you know, is that I have just taken over. I brought a franchise in London of the Ati2ud network, which is a female network, and it's all about that. It's all about coming together and referring business to each other and giving and etc. Yeah, so I'm now in charge of the Athena Central London Ati2ud network. It's funny.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
definitely. Best of luck with that. I went to a JT Fox seminar a couple of months ago, and he kept on drumming into the audience that your network is your net worth.
Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely true. So let's revert back now to the work you do, because I think that it's also very interesting to talk about that, in the sense that who we are is shaping our businesses, of course, and who we are has everything to do with how we relate to ourselves, but also how we relate to others. So it would be interesting to have more views around that, because I think that is something that can be extremely useful, helpful for the listeners as well. So what would you want to share?
I think, you know, very few of us actually reflect back on our lives in terms of our childhood and our upbringing and the foundation that has given us. In terms of dealing with things like taking risks, making decisions, especially tough or hard decisions, not being afraid to try or fail, for that matter, because we learn through failure. From a relationship point of view, in terms of the work that I do, our childhood gives us our foundation in terms of emotional development as to what love and relationships are or should look like. Because as children, we model ourselves on our primary caregivers, which is our parents in most instances. And we watch them in terms of how they interact with each other on a relational level, you know, how they talk to each other, how they show affection, how they show love, the language they use, the words they use. And when they fight or argue, you know, is it a destructive process that they use, or is it a mature, let's sort this and resolve this, process? And that then forms our image of relationships, and we repeat those patterns and those cycles in our own relationships. But added to that is our life stage and also our life experiences, which is continuously evolving and morphing and kind of grows or morphs that picture. And that then determines who we become as an adult and the types of relationships that we forge. And that then also carries over into our working world in terms of how we manage relationships in the workplace. Absolutely. And how we deal with conflict in the workplace, and team dynamics and people dynamics, and how we contribute to relationships, both in our personal space and in our professional careers.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. You're preaching to the converted, and if we were taking more time to reflect, we would understand much more. And it's also coming back to what you and I both said at the beginning, is that you need to look inside instead of looking for, answers outside, because in reality it's your own choices, whether conscious or not, that are leading to the results you're having in your life. And that is, as you say, shaped by what we have experienced as children. What advice would you give to people if they want to start working on that? Where should they start? I know the answer, but
everybody's different, and everybody has a preference for how they like to learn or experience things. So, starting from online, in terms of the internet, there's a number of resources and online assessments you can do. For example, the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. It's a very good quick assessment that you can do online to determine your love language, because we have different love languages and we express or talk those love languages differently to our partners. So learning each other's love language is a great starting point in terms of bringing more positivity and connection into your relationship. Some people like to read books, and there's some great books out there. Again, the 5 Love Languages is one of them. There's also the whole Harville Hendricks range of books. He was the founder of Imago Relationship Therapy, Getting the Love You Want and Keeping the Love You Find. And, so those books are great. Other people like attending workshops or seminars or talks. For me personally, that's what I prefer. I just find that I learn better that way, and I take it in better by listening or experiencing someone. So I like to attend a lot of workshops and seminars and stuff. I think it'll be, first of all, deciding, well, what is it that you are looking to learn more about? Is it about yourself? Is it about relationships? And then kind of deciding, where to look for that information, and how would you like to take on that information? Is it online? I know a lot of people lately are listening to podcasts and audiobooks. They're downloading it and listening while they commute to work. If it's couples, for me personally, I would say attend stuff together, because then you get the information firsthand versus hearing it from your partner, because in that instance you will get your partner's perspective. And everybody's perspective is different. So from a couple's point of perspective, if it comes to relationship work, my recommendation would be do the work together. Because you're in this together, and it's 2 people to make a relationship work.
Yeah, I've been participating in a few seminars lately where each time there were it was around personal development, and each time there were a few couples, and it was very interesting to observe them and see how they were relating to it and taking it in at a different level, and then sharing the experience and understanding things from each other thanks to it. Yeah, it was fascinating. Really like that.
And again, that goes back to our childhood, because in a relationship, each couple or individual in the couple has had a different upbringing. They've had a different perspective. And that's influenced by culture, religion, spirituality, beliefs, values, all of those things. So when a couple relates, they're relating through different filters based on their upbringing and their experience. So that very simple analogy about looking at a glass half full or half empty, you're both right and you're both wrong, depending on which perspective you're looking from. But it's how can you kind of meet each other halfway or in the middle and go, okay, how do we make the most of this situation, or this glass that's full of something or half empty of something.
So Paula, who are your clients? Who do you work with? Do you work online? Do you work in person? What do you do? Who are your clients?
I do both. So I do Skype coaching, very similar to what we're doing now. I also work in person. I run regular workshops. where people attend my workshops, and I'm currently exploring the digital space in terms of digitizing my workshops and my products and putting them online for people to access. I have written an ebook which is available on my website, so people can access that as well.
So for the listeners, you are in Johannesburg.
That's right.
South Africa.
Yes.
And so talking about your website, while we are at it, give us your website.
So my website it's called Ati2ud Communications, and the Ati2ud is spelled incorrectly on purpose because a lot of people comment about that. It is spelled ATI with the number 2UD. .com. And the reason why it's spelled like that is, firstly, attitude. It's about your attitude in life.
Absolutely.
You can either have a positive or a negative attitude, but only one of them is going to get you so far. And the number 2 is because it takes 2 people to have a conversation.
Ah, very good.
And most of my work is based around couples and conversation, but also in terms of self. So when I work with an individual, it's about the conversation that you have with yourself.
With yourself.
Your self-talk, how do you speak to yourself? How do you treat yourself? What is the relationship that you have with yourself?
Sorry, I think that I have to sneeze. Sorry for that. That has never happened before. Well, I'm a human being. It's being said. Sorry for that. It's really the way I work with a very holistic approach, and I start really with the self, and so who you are, what's important to you, and all your limiting beliefs, etc. So everything you've been saying is really talking to me. I really agree with what you said, and I do believe that once you start understanding how you are functioning yourself, it makes it easier for you to start understanding how others are functioning, because they have the same fears. I mean, it's not the same story, but the end result is still the same. We're all in some form of fear, and from there we start wanting to protect ourselves, in essence. So it's so much easier, quote unquote, to understand others once we can start understanding ourselves. And it's all coming back to what I heard you say without using the word. It's all about emotional intelligence, and we're not being taught emotional intelligence at school, and I think that's really something that's missing.
Yeah. And emotional intelligence is so key from a leadership point of view, because by the time you get into a leadership role as the head of a department or the head of an organization, it's all about dealing with people. And that's where emotional intelligence and EQ skills come into play, and is a big requirement that determines the leader's success as a leader when dealing with people. And a lot of organizations are only doing that work or investing in leaders when they get to a senior level, and not so much with the junior to middle management leaders, and helping them develop those skills to become a better manager and a better leader at the end of the day as part of their career path.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I work with some organizations around emotional intelligence workshops in the workplace, and also working with some individuals in the workplace. But as you said, it starts with self, and you can't change anybody else. You can only change yourself. So change comes from within. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Paula, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Once more, it could go on for hours.
We could.
Yeah, we could. So thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this, and I wish you all the best and much success in what you're doing and what you're bringing to the world, because the world badly needs it. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.